So we'll make a start. So welcome to our third attempt at doing interviews with inspiring women. So consider yourself an inspiring woman, Allie Bailey.
I don't know how inspiring I am at the moment, but we'll see. Let's see, shall we?
Yeah, we'll find out. So firstly then, for those, there's a few that are on tonight that possibly don't know your story. And then as well, if we put this onto the YouTube channel, there'll be people that don't know who you are. So could you just give us a quick rundown on your whole life story? Not your whole life story, but how
strap in, everyone.
Allie Bailey, and then finishing off with how you actually got into running and then into ultra running, if that's not too much of it.
Jesus Christ, such a lot. Right. So I am Allie Bailey. My job is that I am the full-time test pilot at Rat Race Adventure Sports. They're the biggest adventure sports company in the UK, and now they're branching out to Australia and America. I worked in the music industry for 15 years. And it was absolutely awful, but at the time I didn't think it was, and I got extremely depressed during that time. It was really bad, and eventually, to cut a long story short, I got to the point where I tried to take my own life. Went to doctors. They were like, you need to get some exercise. I'd never done any exercise at all. I was probably 28. I'm nearly 40 now, and I was like, that doesn't work. I'm not going to do that. But I did go for a run. I went for my first run from my house in Whitechapel down to Towerbridge. And I was like, do you know what? I actually feel like, I feel awful. This is terrible, but I do feel mentally a bit better. I then decided that I was going to run the London Marathon on my 30th birthday. So I did all that training by the book. And then I ran London Marathon for 5 years, or 4 or 5 years, without really doing anything in between apart from half marathons. I thought running was running until I got introduced to trail running by my sister. So I'm originally from Dorset. She still lives there. She introduced me to trail running, and I was like, this is so much better. It's much more fun. There's no times involved. You can eat food, you can have a laugh. It escalated quite quickly from there when she entered an ultra, and then I entered an ultra. And then I was like, ultras are even better because there's even more food and even more nice people to talk to and even more time to do it in. And I got really, really into it. I think 2017 was the year that I just smashed the shit out of it, basically, and just did so many marathons, so many trail marathons, so many multi-day ultras. And then a friend of mine called Lee said to me, do you want to do something fun? And I was like, sure, as long as it's not cold. And he was like, do you want to become the first woman to run across Lake Kosgol in Mongolia, which is a 100-mile frozen lake. It's minus 40. This events company I know are testing this route and they need people to come. And I was like, all right then. So I went and did that. Met Jim Mee, who is the owner of Rat Race. Told him I thought his company was shit because their marketing was aimed at men. He took me on as an ambassador after that comment. And then I found myself doing the same thing in Namibia, across the Namib Nuklaf Park, and then again in Panama. So crossing the Panamanian jungle on foot, running two road marathons the first 2 days, and then crossing the Panamanian jungle on foot, completely self-supported, and doing an entire crossing of the Panama Canal on foot and by kayak. And then last October, the Rat Race asked me to join them full time because I'd been working kind of freelance, just test piloting all the events that they wanted to put on, things like the Isles, which is the entire Outer Hebrides, running from the bottom of the Outer Hebrides to the top along the Hebridean Way over 6 days. I took an all-female team. It was the first time it had ever been done. And what else have we done? Greece Sea to Summit, Spain Sea to Summit, Santorini circuit, loads of stuff, which I basically can come up with these ideas and then I go out and I test them. And that's become my full-time job, which is amazing, except pandemic. So we haven't been able to travel. But I've kind of gone from being a marathon runner who cared about this elusive sub 4, and then to being a ultra runner who I use it to help my mental health, but also I do love it. Sometimes I fucking hate it, but to tell people that they can do stuff. The most important thing for me is to tell people that they're capable of so much more than they think they are. And it's not about being fast. Being a good runner isn't about being fast. It's about being a good member of the community, supporting other people, and being really real about it. Because right this second, as you see me, I am in the middle of a huge depressive episode, which is so appallingly bad that like today, like I've got no confidence. When I get depressed, I have no confidence in anything I could do. And I'm being thrown into water today that is whirring around me and being taught how to do knots and taught how to set up anchors. And I just don't fucking know what I'm doing. And I can't even get words out. It's that difficult. So I might actually not be very good at talking today, but I'm trying. But it's real. And I believe it's important to for people to know that running is great for your mental health, but it does not cure you. And it can be really bad for your mental health at the same time if you put too much expectation on it. But that's kind of where I'm at now. I've done loads of stupid challenges, done loads of massively long races. I've had a really lovely time with it, and I still am having a lovely time with it. I guess that's kind of is that what you wanted to hear? Is that a brief synopsis?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, so I think a lot of the people that do follow you on social media and that listen to the podcast and everything, you're known for telling it how it is and for expressing yourself, and I think that's probably there's a lot of fake people in there on social media. So I think you as a person and how honest you are.
I actually hate it. I said this at work the other day because I was like, I'd like to get some people on board for America and Australia for launching Rat Race. I said to the office, who inspires you on Instagram? Literally nobody could name anyone that inspired them. And I don't, there's no one on Instagram that inspires me. There's no one that every day I'm like, wow, man, that person's cool, because I just don't believe it. I just think it's all a load of shit. It's all PBs. It's all how good do you look. It's all how fast have you gone. It's all everything's better than yesterday. And I think, I don't ever want running to define me. I want it to be it's a very important part of me. And I love being outside, and I love, trails, and I love seeing the animals, little trail angels I see everywhere. And I love that the feeling of accomplishment. But I also think that part of the reason that I run these ridiculous distances is because it is a form of self-harm, but it's a good form of self-harm. So it helps me. It's almost like I'm punishing myself by doing this stuff. But it does help me. And sometimes I'm on top of the world and it's amazing. Most of the time I'm not on top of the world, but I'm okay. And some of the time I'm absolutely terrible. And I don't think that people are really real about that. I think there's a big stigma around mental health. Like today I was talking to my boss about my suicidal ideation. What a fun topic. I was talking to my boss about it, and he was like, it's completely listening to me and being like, okay, got it. What can we do? And I'm like, nothing. All you can do is be normal and let me be around you and let me talk about it. Because if I talk about it, I won't do it. And and right now I haven't been running since Friday because I haven't had time because of this bloody course, and also I haven't wanted to. But I have to be able to say to myself, that's okay as well, because you'll want to. Tomorrow morning I might want to get up and go out at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I will. But running does not change the fact that people are sad and depressed and stressed. It helps manage it, but it doesn't stop it. And I think that's a really important message, especially for people just starting out who are like, this is not making that much difference to my life. It's like in the long term, it will make difference to your friendship groups. It'll make difference to the people you hang out with. It'll make difference to how you perceive yourself and what you are capable of. And even in the darkest throes of this fucking depression, I know I am capable of running 100 miles without stopping. Stopping for food, but everyone likes to snack. And I know that, and that gives me great comfort. And I think it's just really, really important to try and be as honest as you possibly can. And sometimes I get scared of doing that. And sometimes I'm like, oh no, what will people think of me? And sometimes, everyone, I lose Instagram followers when I talk about mental health. But I'm like, do you know what? You're in the wrong place anyway. So yeah, that's kind of it. Instagram does my nut in. The only reason I use it is basically because I have to for work.
So I think just on that point of Instagram and, well, actually, how it affects you with the pandemic and everything. You said that it stopped you from doing what you would have done with Rat Race. But for me, and I know for a lot of other ultra runners, we kind of build our lives around races, don't we? We've got this race, got that race. And then when all of that was cancelled, and obviously your plans with Rat Race were cancelled for pretty much the year. Do you think that made people or made yourself reassess your purpose for running, the reason why?
It made me reassess my entire purpose for being here, because I really have invested a lot of time in stuff. The first lockdown, I'm gonna be honest, I loved it because I could run loads. I was living in Somerset. I hadn't joined Rat Race full time. I had a job, but I could do it from home. So I set myself loads of stupid challenges because my races have been cancelled. I was signed up for the Centurion Grand Slam, so that's 400 milers in a year. I saved up the money, I paid for it, and I was like, I'm going to do this. And it's the only time I'm ever going to have time to do it. And that was my big A game goal. But I also had all the Rat Race trips as well towards the end of the year. Big boys, like, you know, where are we going? So Namibia is always a big one. We were going to Dominica, Exuma, Galapagos, Madagascar, Kamchatka, all these places that we had these amazing events planned. And that went out the window. So in May last year, I did the accumulator. I set myself this, you know, I saw that Cobain was doing the accumulator. I was like, I'm going to have a go at that. I think I decided, it was in May that I did it. I did it from the 1st to the 31st of May. The accumulator involves you running a mile for whatever day of the week it is. So on the 1st, it's 1 mile, 2nd, 2 miles, 3rd, 3 miles, until you get to the 31st, where you're just like, I've now got to run 31 miles after running 30 yesterday. It totals about 425. But I decided, but because all the Centurion events have been called off, they were doing them virtually. So I added in my 100 miler for Centurion right at the end, and did it by myself in 25-mile laps around Shepton. And then the next day went and did the accumulator, finished the accumulator. So I ended up doing like nearly 600 miles in a month. And so I was actually finding some proper meaning in that lockdown, because I was like, this is amazing. I've got the time to do this. And I'm doing stuff that I never thought was possible. And I did manage to get, I think I did 3 out of the 4 Grand Slam events, because we could do it they could do it in a COVID secure way. I only missed out on one, and that one's in June this year. But as it went on and more stuff got cancelled, I did start to lose my reason for doing it, because it is all about racing and it is all about the community. The biggest thing for me is the running community. They are, without doubt, the most supportive community I've ever come across. When you line up on the start of an ultra, there's no how much do you earn, what car do you drive, how many kids have you got. You're all there for a shared experience, and you're all looking after each other, looking out for each other. It's not like a road race where people are elbowing you in the face and telling you to hurry the fuck up, which has happened to me before in road races. And I think losing that was really, really difficult. Losing that aim was really, really difficult. But, you know, I've got a little running group on Facebook called Ultra Awesome, and I focused a lot of attention on that, where I set them little challenges and saw how well they were getting on. And I take great pleasure from other people doing really well and doing things they never thought were possible. Because I tell you what, when I stood at the start line for my first 100, I never ever thought that was possible, ever, that I could run 100 miles in one go. But I did, and it's sheer like bloody mindedness, but also putting the time in to train and knowing you've put the time in to train. And also, I said this to my boss today, like, the fact that I suffer with depression is fucking horrible. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but there is a way to turn it around. There is a way to harness it and flip it. So when you're in that situation at mile 85 on 100 mile, and you're like, I can't do this anymore, it's like, I have been in way worse situations than this. Like, I say this all the time, I'm more afraid of myself than I am of that distance, and I will push through it. And it is step by step. And there's so many parallels you can draw to it. So I took a lot, in answer to your question, a long answer, I took a lot of the frustration I felt from the pandemic and from stuff being cancelled, and tried to turn it around and tried to get stuff done. Having said that, it's still really difficult. Like, it remains really difficult. I don't even know if we can go and do the stuff we've got planned in June. It's just super, super hard. Oh, was he frozen? Was it just me?
Yes.
Where is he? Where has he gone? We're all still here. You're all still here. Maybe I'll just talk to you. Just wait for him to come back in. Maybe you ask me questions.
I'll put the camera on. I'm in the mirroring room, so I'll put that up.
Are you in bed? Having a lovely time. Yeah, if you guys want to ask me anything, then go ahead. I'm sure he'll pop back in.
What was your first 100-mile ultra, Allie?
Autumn 100. It was Centurion. It's a really, really good first one. a really good first one, because it goes out and back in like the shape of a cross. So it's out 12 miles, back 12 miles, and out 12 miles, back 12 miles. So it's comforting, because everyone can do 12 miles, right? So that's how I kept thinking of it. I've done 12 miles before. I could just keep doing it. But yeah, it's a real good one.
Yeah.
Am I on? I'm not on mute, am I?
No one's on mute.
So no, you talked about starting running when you were maybe a bit later than you'd planned once you'd gone through your depressive episode and all that sort of stuff. I think we're all of a certain age on this call, and I wonder why that is. Why aren't young people getting into running? Maybe
I think they are.
You reckon they are? I've got a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old, both who I think are pretty good athletes, but to get them into running, I'm finding it really difficult. And I think there's an opportunity there for when I was a kid, there was loads of great runners that I admired, whether they were Ovett and people like that, or the marathon winners of that time. So I was just wondering, how do we get younger people into running? But if you think they are, tell us about that.
Well, I took my niece out for her first half marathon the other day. She's 23, so I'm nearly 40, remember. So I think young people now, there's two types of, right? I live in a world of ultra runners. I think that what I do is completely normal. I don't know what your experience is. I don't know if you guys are all experienced ultra runners or whether you're just club runners. I just don't know. So I might be preaching to the converted here, but what ultra runners do is not fucking normal. Like, only 1% of people in the UK ever run a marathon once, ever. So what we do is not normal. I think there is a bit of a risk of, for example, my ex-boyfriend Julius, who's like my best mate in the whole world, he's got a son who's 11 called Oscar. Oscar sees me and Julius going out and smashing out a 50-mile run, no problem, or going out and doing a 100-miler 4 times a year, whatever it is. And we present that as normal. It's not normal. And I think it might frighten Oscar a little bit into him being like, oh, well, if you're going to go running, you've got to run 100 miles, you've got to run 50 miles. And you don't, or you've got to be fast, or you've got to be this, you've got to have this type of body shape, or you've got to do that. One of my bugbears is junior parkrun, because I think that parkrun is brilliant and I've absolutely no problem with parkrun. But when you go to a junior parkrun and you look at the fact the kids are pitted competitively against each other, that's not enjoyable. And I think that presenting running as an enjoyable thing. So my thing when I present to people what I do is that it's an adventure under your own steam, and it is an adventure. You can go and explore these routes and these places, especially in the UK, that you've never been before, that you can't get to by car. If you go out to the Pennines, there's places you cannot get to by car, or the Lake District or Scotland or wherever. It's an adventure. And if you go with someone that you love or someone that you like and just make a day of it and have a proper laugh and eat a load of food and take as much time as you want, you have a genuine life experience that is not sitting in front of Zoom or sitting in front of your computer or doing whatever. And I think maybe that's what is missing with young people. Their connections are purely through their phones. They really are. And showing them with Holly, my niece, she lives in London. We took her for a 13-mile trail run in the New Forest. She'd never done a trail run before. Proper eye opener, bogs. It rained. There was mud. She bloody loved it. She's like, this is so much better than London, where it's just pavements and people dodging. It's about taking them out and showing them, but taking them out and showing them under their own rules, in that bring a mate with you, or if your mate doesn't want to run, they could cycle, or let's take the dog, or let's take all day about it, and like genuinely having a nice time. Because if people don't have a nice time, they don't want to do it again. And that's why I nearly gave up long distance running, was road running. I just fucking hated it. And I was like, this is horrible. And it wasn't until I found, it was White Star Running in Dorset, a really good running company, and all these mental people that have a beer after a run or have a beer during a run and eat cake. And I was like, this is what it's about. Like, this is brilliant. It's like a proper community. And so you can't force it with your kids, but young people don't have role models. There's nobody on the telly or on TikTok or on Instagram that is being real and being funny and being on their level and saying to them, this is cool and this is good fun. So it's up to us as runners to present that to them.
I really like that ethos. I'm just thinking about my own running. Maybe I'm just too formulaic and just I do, I guess, the same thing a lot of the time, and maybe I just need to be a bit more progressive and that fun bit that you talked about. Yeah, I have fun, but probably it's not the experience that I could have. So yeah.
So what does your running week look like? Like a quick synopsis of what did you do the same route?
I might run 40 miles a week, but well, actually this weekend I'm doing a half marathon with a couple of guys from the club, which is all trail. But I think I do stick around the same routes a lot of the time. I guess we've been affected by lockdown and stuff, but I don't perhaps think I guess more expansively about, because we live just on the edge of the Peak District and the Derbyshire Dales.
What?
How much do I get there?
Should
Not
be
as much
out
as
there.
I should.
You should be out there, man. Like OS Maps, View Ranger, Garmin Connect. There are routes. Go and drive you got mates. Get a car. Say we're going to run this route. Just find one. Like at the moment, I'm doing the Cleveland Way for my 40th birthday, which is up north. I'm going to run the whole bloody thing. It's 109 miles, but it's point to point. So find a route that you want to do, like a 20-mile one, and say, come on, boys, let's go out and do it. Park one car at the start, park another car at the end, come back to the start, pack your bag of snacks, drop some snacks along the way, drop some water along the way, like in a hedge or wherever it is on the route, so you don't run out, and just make a day of it and have an explore. Like that's living. And that's like, you'll end up doing more miles, having more fun, and being like, today I've had a proper adventure. And funny stuff happens when you do that. The other day I did the Mendip Way with my friend Julius and my friend Duncan. And we came into this field and there was these lambs being born. Like they were just popping out their mums and like coming over to rickety. And I was like, this is so beautiful and glorious. And you wouldn't see this if you weren't out for a run.
Absolutely.
And it's about those experiences, and it's about the stories you go to tell at the pub later. And it's not about, oh, I won the Yeovil half marathon once, or I came third in the Reading marathon once. It's not about that. It's about coming home and having that sense of achievement, but also that sense of happiness that comes from being outdoors and seeing amazing stuff and having an experience with your mates that is not just sitting in the pub. Like, make it fun. It's supposed to be fun. Does everybody remember that running is supposed to be fun? Because it is.
I do. I love an adventure. Stopping for an ice cream mid-run, that sort of thing.
That's protein. That's perfect. It's a perfect running snack.
Absolutely. And the cone is carbs, so.
Exactly. It's basically, that's what Mo Farah's getting wrong. He should just be eating ice cream halfway through a marathon.
Cool. Thanks for that.
Thanks, you, and I appreciate you diving in there. My internet for the first time ever on a Zoom has just conked out, back on again now. It's the perils of living in the countryside, unfortunately. Yeah, I appreciate your answers to that and the questions that have been put. As Kelly just said, then we're not all just road runners. I'm far from a road runner, and I trail run. And on Friday, I'll be out doing 20 miles in the Peak District on Friday myself. So we are. So yeah, we live. So we're Mickleover. I live in a little village just outside called Etwell, and we're about 15 minutes at the most to the edge of the Peak District. So Ashbourne is like the gateway to the Peak District here. So you can, within 20 minutes, you can be parked up and running.
I'm just going on Google. I'm just going on Google Maps. I'm not being rude. I'm just going on Google Maps because I don't know what anything is. My geography is shocking.
Yeah,
I lead out these adventures like in all sorts of ridiculous places and guide people across deserts, but I don't know where the fucking Peak District is in relation to where I live.
Yeah. So if you look for Ashbourne is the closest point of entry to the Peak District from us. So you got Derby, and then you've got the A52 that drives out towards Ashbourne.
Okay.
And then you can, within sort of 5 minutes of being in the Peak District, you could be absolutely anywhere in the Peak District.
So the other day I went to Snowdonia because I had to do some filming for Rat Race, and I was actually going to stop in the Peak District on the way back because I was like, that looks like a good. I was going to go to Edale and run there because I'd heard that it was quite nice around there. But then there was a massive crash on the. Oh, not me, but there was a massive crash. And it took me 6 hours to get home. So I was like, I'm not going to be running in Edale today. Yeah. But that's on my bucket list of places because I've literally just moved up north. I'm living in South Cave, which is on the Wolds Way. It's near Hull, but it's not Hull. And so yeah, I'm always up for little weekend adventures. So if you want to arrange little weekend adventures, let me know. And if you're around, I'll definitely pop up.
Give you a guided. We could give you a guided tour. There's plenty of ultra runners in the group. In fact, if Edale, it's so easy, Edale, because you can drive into Edale and you can park at the train station, at the car park. There's a big car park there. You can literally park there all day, get there early, and then from there you can get up onto the Edale Skyline route. So the sky race that goes around there, that route. From that point, you it's central, so you can head out on both sides of the valley, and there's so much out there. In this last summer I've got a mate who's in the Dark Peak Fell Running Club, same club as like Nicky Spinks and a few others.
Yeah.
And he took me up on a challenge that they've got of trying to do all 15 trigs in the Dark Peak. So it's about, I think if you complete it, which we didn't, it's about 60. We got to 50 miles and 13 trigs, and then we picked the hottest day of last summer. Obviously, great time to do it. Yeah. And he suffers with the heat anyway. And I think between us, we'd taken on about 6 to 8 liters of water during the day. We were literally siphoning it with, those filters you can get, and filtering the water straight from the stream and pouring it into our bags, into the bladders. And it still wasn't enough. We came out of it dehydrated and had to quit at 13. And we decided we'd walk out.
It's not quitting it. That's the end of the adventure for the day. Like, you can go back and do it the next day. No one's timing you. It doesn't matter.
Quitting it was we didn't realise we still had 7 miles back to the car. So
brilliant.
Quitting and deciding that you'd finished running, and we still had to walk 7 miles back to the car. But that's like you say, it's an adventure, isn't it? And I mean, like when I started running, my sort of route into running was that I hadn't got a clue about running. Just set off, and the mate of mine says, "Oh, do you want to do a half marathon?" Train for a half marathon, and the same as a lot of people just thought that's all there was to running: half marathons, 10Ks, and marathons. And then a friend of mine said, "Oh, you like running? I've got this book. You might want to read it." Dean Carnaz's Ultra Marathon Man.
Oh, obviously my best mate Dean. Love a bit of Dean.
The book that obviously started probably hundreds, if not thousands, of ultra running careers.
It is the same book that I read when my sister was like, "I'm doing an ultra." I'm like, "What's an ultra?" She's like, "Read this book," and I read it, and I'm like, "This is so American, that book." But it's like, this dude seems fun. This seems like a fun thing to do. I'm exactly the same. I love a little bit of Dean.
I think it's his story kind of resonated with me when I read that. Or like his troubled upbringing and his sister dying and stuff like that, and then him getting to his 30th. It was his 30th birthday, wasn't it? And he decided, he's like, what have I done with my life?
He didn't decide. He got really pissed, and then he decided to run back to the pub, basically.
Yeah, and he ran 30 miles, didn't he? And destroyed his feet in one go. Do you think ultra running has an attraction to? I know there's a lot of younger fast ultra runners now, but traditionally it was a bit of a sport for the rejects of running, almost like the old boys that were a bit hippie and a bit different and didn't like road running. Do you think that it's changed over time?
I don't know. I don't actually think there are that many young people in it. I don't really take much notice of people's ages, but when I line up on the start, for example, Centurion race, because I do a lot of their races, I don't see a lot of young people on the start lines for those hundreds. I always feel like I'm one of the youngest. Maybe I'm not. There's a few, but there's the hot young things, like Tom Evans and all that sort of stuff. But there's not really anyone coming through that I'm just like, oh, that's really interesting. You don't get 18-year-old ultramarathon runners, because I think it's like a life skill. It takes a long time to and also you're not developed. Ultra running is different. You appreciate different things. You appreciate your environment, your time. You appreciate food a lot more, and it all depends on your attitude. But I think it is now becoming a much more accessible sport. When I look at what's happening now, in the last week, I've watched, and I'm very ingrained with the Bad Boy Running group, and very ingrained with Ultra Awesome, very ingrained with Centurion, very ingrained with Rat Race. But I watched the Centurion Track 100, and I watched not Richard McDowell, Mike Bisson, who I know through the group, who DNF'd Autumn 100 3 years ago, run a 14-hour 100-miler on that track. His progress has been so amazing. And I don't really give a shit about time. I care about my times, but for me, that's unfathomable to run 100 miles on a track in 14 hours. He came last, but he also did it in 14 hours. And then to watch Richard McDowell smash it out 6 hours 10 on the South Downs Way. My friend Lorna is going out to do the Thames Path next week, and I'm crewing her. She's looking to do it in 17 hours. All these amazing times are coming through because people have used lockdown to really focus in on the stuff they've missed, which is adventure, really. So you've got people doing this stuff for the first time, but you've also got people that have really tried to train during the time that they've had and making headlines. And if you make headlines, more people come to it, because believe me, we are all in a bubble. Everybody on this call is in a bubble, an ultra bubble. We know what it is. If you walk into Primark in the middle of Birmingham Bullring and ask 10 people what an ultra run is, none of them will know what it is. It's not a mainstream sport. And if you say to them, do you know what? I can run 100 miles in under 21 hours. They'll be like, that's not fucking possible. And they just freak out. It's not a thing that people do. I think you'll see it grow now as we are probably locked in the UK and can't really go anywhere. People will run further. They'll do more exploring. You see more people going out to even on the World's Way. When I'm out on the World's Way, when I first moved, there was nobody on those trails. Nobody. As lockdowns ease, it's getting fuller and fuller and fuller, and it's great. But they're fucking trampling my trails, making them muddy. But it's great, and I think more people will be like, well, I need to do something, and I've run a half marathon, so I might as well see how far I can go. It's just about explaining to people, you don't have to be the quickest. You don't have to only eat shot blocks or gels. You can eat a piece of cake and a sandwich. It's not going to kill you to eat a piece of cake and a sandwich and run. I always thought that you had to eat and then wait an hour. Turns out I can eat a pizza and run at the same time. But there's all these myths that I think are perpetuated, and it's like you need to get it into that community and also be a little bit more open-minded and be a little bit more grown up to be able to kind of really get to the sort of bones of it. And also the other thing to remember is ultra running isn't for everybody, and it's not something that everybody has to do. Like if you like running marathons, stick with marathons. You might not like it, but you might. So give it a go. If you don't, that's fine.
Do you think people shifted their focus during the pandemic to train more then? Because with races kind of off the cards, everyone had to find something else to do, didn't they? So, and I know that I foolishly decided that I wanted in last summer, in the first lockdown, I set myself a goal of doing an FKT, so running the length of the Peak District in one go, doing that in a day unsupported. And I did it. I wasn't happy with how long it took me, but I did it. I was happy with that. And that kind of replaced for me races that I couldn't do last summer. But then the second lockdown, this winter one, I hated because it was middle of winter. It just felt like every day was dark and depressing, and there was no end in sight. So I thought, I'll work on my speed work. I'll finally go for a sub-3 marathon, and I'll train for that specifically. And I did, and then I got injured. So
because you're running too fast. I've got no sympathy for you. You're a fucking moron. No one cares about your sub-3, Sam, apart from you. Now you're injured.
No one cares. No one cares. And I ended up injured. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what my point was, but
right.
Do you think
with the FKT thing, FKTs are only going to fuck your mental health, because FKT is the fastest known time. Someone else is going to take that time off you. What you want to be doing is world first. You want to do something first, because no one can ever take the first off you, and that's what I like doing the most. First off, you're a trailblazer, you're an explorer, you're an adventurer. Doing a world first is such a brilliant, brave thing to do. And like I say, it can never be taken off you. The other week, I've always wanted to run the whole of the East Mendip and West Mendip Way. So that runs from Frome to Western Supermare in Somerset. I've lived in Somerset for 3 years before I came up here. I love it. It's great. The Mendips are amazing. So me and Julius, my friend Duncan, off we trotted 50 miles. I thought it would take us, maybe 10 hours? Because it's real hilly. It's 9,000 feet of elevation. It's through Cheddar Gorge, Eber Gorge, It's big. But we had Duncan with us, so it took us 12 and a half hours. The week after, John Kelly, twice Barkley Marathon winner, all-round ultra running legend, lives in Bristol now. He trotted out. He did 30 miles of the Mendip Way in 3 hours and 25 minutes, including Cheddar Gorge, which he did at 6-minute miles.
Wow.
And I was like, I was really pleased with my West Mendip Way run. I really loved it. It was great. It was like I've always wanted to do. I don't care how long it took. But when I saw that, I was just like, this is fucking embarrassing. Like, I'm so shit. But I'm not shit because I do it different. I have a different reason to what John has. Like, my reason is I want to be able to go on for as long as I possibly can without stopping, because I'm all about endurance. So it doesn't matter how slow I go. And I can do a fair clip, but it's usually between 11 and 13-minute miles on a hilly course, average, which is great because it gets you in at sub 24 for 100. But that's for me. All those things are for me. And I don't care what anyone else thinks. It's like, and people shouldn't care what anyone else thinks. And that's why the stuff like FKTs does my nut in and stuff like, because I just think you put pressure on yourself and then you end up not enjoying it. And when you put pressure on yourself, or when you set yourself those things, you need to have an event to kind of prove to yourself that you've done it. But the low that can come from post-event, when you realize actually no one gives a fuck, it's all about you, and it's you that has to find peace with why you're running or what you're running for. Because really, honestly, so many people that I know go out and do this and kill themselves to get this sub 3 marathon or this sub whatever marathon, and when they realize that no one actually gives a shit, it breaks their heart, because they don't. Because no one, you're not Kipchoge, you're not Mo Farah, no one cares. It's all about you. So if you're happy in your progress and you know what you want to do, fucking go for it. And if that's FKT, it's great. If that's sub 3, that's great. But you need to find that meaning. And my meaning is I want to go and be the first person to run the entire Galapagos Islands. I want to be the first person to run Bikini Atoll. I want to be the first person to run the length of Exuma Islands. Like, that's the stuff that I'm like, yeah, that's adventure, that's traveling, and also that's being a fucking role model, especially to young girls who don't have an adventure role model. So it's about finding your meaning, really, isn't it? And I'm very clear on what my meaning is, and there's a few of them, you know, like anyone can have a go at this, anyone can do it. It's not about time, it's not about killing yourself, it's not about any of that. You can do it and have a laugh, you really can.
So based on that, what you're trying to achieve, what are you trying to achieve with Ultra Awesome, with that
so I set up Ultra Awesome. The thing I get the most from people is, oh man, I wish I could do the distance that you do. And I'm like, you can. It's pretty simple. You just get the right people around you. You just put a bit of time into it, and you need to be inspired to do it. So I set up Ultra Awesome because I have all these people asking me all these questions, and I was like, I just want a hub of people that can. When I set it up, I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, I just need to put them all somewhere. So I'll put them all into the Ultra Awesome bucket, and then I'll talk to them. I'll give them some Facebook Lives. I'll explain stuff to them. And then it turned into me setting them some challenges, because there were lots of them and they all really got on board with it. And they're fun. It's fun challenges. It's always fun. But it always is like, do you want to run 100 miles this month, 200 miles this month, 300 miles this month, 100K this month, whatever it is. Do it with a silly hat on, write something funny in Strava art, share your pictures, share your experience. And those people within the group all start talking to each other. They make friends with each other. They virtually support each other, or sometimes in real life go and meet each other and support each other. And it just does its own thing. And it's people working. This is what I love about the test pilot stuff I do and the stuff I do with the venture running. People are built to look after each other. They're built to support each other, and they're built to work as a group. The world we live in is divisive. The news is divisive. Everything is fucking divisive. Politics is divisive. They pit us against each other. We're not built for that, and it makes us angry and it makes us segregated. If you can find your tribe, whether that's the 5K tribe, whether it's park run tribe, whether it's the 5K tribe, whether it's the fast half marathon tribe, even if it's a bloody triathletes tribe, whoever it is, you will work together with those people, and you'll never work together more than you do with people who you do a 100 miler with, or a 50 miler with, or a 30 miler with. You know, pre-COVID, we all used to start together. You'd find your way in the pack. You get to your point. You start chatting to people, and you would look out for each other. And having that real human connection is so fucking rare in the world that we live in. And I think it's key. And watching these people grow through that Ultra Awesome group, through this human connection and through supporting each other when they don't know each other, that makes my heart sing. That's what it's about. And that's, like, for me, the most important thing.
I think I know what you mean about making friends. You can make an absolute best friend just in one race, can't you? In an ultra, you can be running along, and however long it is, 50 miler, 50k, whatever. And if you're running at the same pace as somebody else, you're right. How you doing? Have a quick chat.
And they want to talk. Sometimes they don't want to talk to me. I don't know why that is, but sometimes they just don't. They just run off. But also, it's like therapy, because you say things to people that you've never met before that you would never, ever, ever otherwise say to them if you met them in the pub. Ever. It all just comes out.
And you end up being. I found that on races I've made friends that I've kept in touch with, that I view as some of my best friends. Then you just purely just sharing that experience together. You just aren't talking about the same things, and like you say, by the time you finish the race, about all the kids, about all the pets and their life experiences. And I think that is where ultra running is unique, isn't it? It's definitely different to most sports,
because you've got the time to finish the conversation. You've got hours.
Very true. Yeah. We've got some questions from the club, if that's okay.
Go for it.
I'll get told off if I don't include them. Right. So Sarah has got a question for you. She says, "You really do have, as you have put it, a finger in every pie.
Do I?
Do you ever feel you are spreading yourself too thinly and need to rein in that need to be involved with so much, or does it all add to the adrenaline rush?"
I don't really know what that means. I've got.
Allie, you did put you had your fingers in loads of pies. I'm not just making that up.
Yeah, but was that not an aid station where I was just touching?
Rob, he posted it up.
I've got a lot of fingers in a lot of pies. What do you mean? Like, do I think I'm taking on too much with like podcast, Ultra Awesome, work, running, or all of it? I do too many races.
Just a bit of that, yeah, all of that.
Sometimes I do feel like I have got pie everywhere. There's pie everywhere, and it is all just smashed up in a mess. Yes and no, like, because I dip in and out of it all. Like with Ultra Awesome, they're all looking after themselves most of the time, which is really good, and that's what I kind of want it to be like. I don't want to have to shepherd people around. I've got my work, which is obviously doing the rat race stuff. I've got my running. I like it. I like to be busy. It makes me sound like a jack of all trades and a master of none. But sometimes, Sarah, it does get too much. And sometimes I have to just say stop. And I do say stop. Like anyone that follows me on Instagram knows that I go, stop it. I'm just going to stop and get off for a little bit and reassess things. But I'm not a professional athlete. I'm not after times. I'm not after winning stuff. I'm just after this constant forward progress of happiness and calmness and trying to stop the monkeys and bicycles. And the best way for me to do that is to be as busy as possible and like hop from bit to bit. Although I will tell you now that I'm fucking sick of having to arrange the National Running Show stuff, and I'm sick of having to do a load of other stuff that I have to do, which I'm just like, can't someone else do this? So probably I have got my fingers in too many pies, but I am eating all of the pies bit by bit. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Ali. Yes, it does.
Glad that answers your question, Sarah. So Andrew from the group says he's got a few questions. He's personally interested in foods for during long training or race. How well do they digest at that sort of pace, particularly proteins?
What sort of pace? Have you got a pace in mind?
I don't know if he's on. If you're on, Andrew, what kind of pace did you mean? No. Is it not on? Don't know. Ultra pace. Just give us a rundown.
What Bailey eats during an ultra? In the morning, I have a massive bowl of porridge and a banana. And and then I try and eat every hour, and it's stuff like I'm vegetarian, which is fun. So I have nuts, cashews, and peanuts. Go to Aldi or Lidl, one of the two. I can't remember which one it is. Diddly D, whichever one it is. And they have like nuts which have got honey and salt on them, and they're amazing because they're proper energy boosters. I try and eat every hour. When I'm running, say for example, 50 miler or 100 miler, I eat to my circadian rhythm. So I have breakfast, I have lunch, I have dinner. So I'll stop. I'll have my breakfast before I start. Then I'll snack on proper food, no shop blocks, no refined sugar, none of that, because it just fucks your stomach up. Lunchtime comes, it's time for a sandwich and some crisps. So it's like drop bag, sandwich, proper sandwich, like a cheese sandwich, don't plain, packet of crisps, or even put the crisps in the sandwich. Eat it as you're walking along if you want. Banana, maybe a yogurt, definitely a milkshake. I cannot recommend highly enough the M&S vanilla milkshake or vanilla milk, because it's protein, it just goes straight down. And then snack, and then dinner time, have something that is a decent size. If you're on a 50 miler, you probably won't need to have dinner because you've nearly finished. But if you're on a 100 miler, have something decent. So like Wayfarer do really good wet foods, like a veggie chili con carne that you can eat cold or hot, and you just spoon it out and eat it. But stick to the 3 main meals of the day. If you're doing something shorter and you want to be fast, by all means go for your shot blocks and your gels. But I think anything over 30 miles, if you try and do that on shot blocks and gels alone, you're going to have a shock up. But not only that, you're going to damage your body. Like, this is someone that drinks lots of wine and occasionally smokes cigarettes, but you are going to damage your body because you're not going to put that protein back into it. And it's like, I always say, it's like running your car on fumes. Like, you can put a tiny bit of petrol in every now and again, but what you need to do is fill the tank right up when you're supposed to fill the tank right up, and let it go down slowly, as opposed to just like smashing it out on the tiny bit of petrol that you've got. So I'm all about real food, real nice plain food that you like. If you eat meat, sausage rolls are amazing. Or if you don't eat meat, the corn, fake Scotch eggs and fake sausage rolls are really good as well. Just get them down, get some water down you, walk a little bit, let it digest for like 10 minutes, and then just keep going. And the more you train your body to do that, the easier it will be. And everyone can do it. People are like, it makes me feel sick. It's like, it doesn't make you feel sick. You think it's going to make you feel sick, or you're running too fast, so there's no blood in your stomach. If all the blood goes to your legs because you're running too fast, that's when you feel sick. So you're running too fast. It's all about training, but eating proper food, eating what you like, will see you so much better for like much longer runs.
Pork pies for me. Pork pies and peanut butter sandwiches.
Pork pies so badly.
Can you get a veggie option of pork pies?
No, they haven't managed to do a veggie pork pie. They do the veggie Scotch eggs, which are really good. The veggie sausage rolls are really good. They've not managed pork pie. And sometimes if I'm like on events, say I'm in like Namibia or like Mongolia, what's for dinner? It's like, oh, it's reindeer or it's bison. It's like, okay, I'm going to eat that because it's responsibly sourced from here. I cannot eat pig because I love pigs too much. They're just too cute and too clever. So I'm like, pork pies are out the window, and I miss them badly.
Very true. Yeah, so any port in a storm. Yeah, so I remember listening to you talking about when you went to Mongolia and how you were just so grateful to be eating at the end of the day, weren't you?
I would have eaten a Mongolian if it had been served to me. I was so hungry. And like, this is the other thing, you have to listen to your body. Like, when you're out in those places, whatever you are offered, you take, because you don't know when you're going to get your next thing that you actually really want. So just, your body needs fuel. If you don't have any fuel in your body, you will mess it up. So just put it in.
Yeah, take it on board. Absolutely. Another question from the group. So actually, this was one that came from the Bad Boy Running group.
Oh,
so
good.
Nick,
what is it? Is it about triathlon?
No, it's a serious one. Yeah, it's not about triathlons or someone throwing milkshake at Jodie or anything like that.
Or someone just being ridiculous.
Yeah. So it's actually Nick, and obviously I saw that you read his comments.
Yeah, but it was so long. I didn't read the whole thing. I just got halfway through and just, for fuck's sake, Jesus Christ, Nick.
I read it all. Yeah, I did read it all. And it basically brings up the point that he used running as medicine for his anxiety and his depression.
Yeah.
But he felt that running then became something that gave him highs and lows, like when he had problems with taking, being on drugs, that kind of thing, where you've got the high of the weekend and then you've got the come down after the weekend in the week.
Yeah.
Do you think that ultra running can be that kind of, doing races or big events can be something that kind of fuels the drug, it's like a drug, it fuels it, and then you've got the low afterwards?
Yeah, post-adventure, post-running blues is a thing. It's a real thing, and it can happen in two ways. The first way is you really looked forward to it and then it's over, you don't want it to be over, and that is like when you come back from holiday. The second is you don't feel like you've performed properly, or you start to take the whole thing to bits. It's happened to me loads of times. So the first 100 I went into the first 100 3 weeks after what can only be described as psychotic breakdown, where I'd had to go home and live with my mum for a bit. But I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to leave my demons out on the trail. I'm going to prove to myself I am good at one thing, and that is being able to run for ages. And I turned up at Ultra 100. I did it. When I finished, I've never felt anything like that. It wasn't like a high, like a drug high or like a alcohol high or anything like that. It was just a sense of like calm, like I'd done it. The weeks that followed, I relapsed back into being really depressed. Because of that, nobody cares. No one gives a shit about this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to anybody. It's over. Like, I worked really hard for it, and what have I got from it? Nothing. That's about you. That's about you as a human being, and it's about why you're doing it. And I think that's probably why I post a lot on social media, is not because I want people to be like, oh my God, you're amazing, because I fucking don't. I want to verbalize my thoughts to another platform and to push myself to keep going and not feel like there is no point in going on. So it's really about how you deal with it, and also about knowing that your thoughts are not things. Your thoughts are thoughts, and things are other things. And if you do come off of, for example, London Marathon you've been training for ages for, or like a big ultra you've been training for ages for, you need to have something else ready, waiting there for you to put some focus into, or you need to be able to write it down, or you need to be able to deal with it, and you need to be aware that it might happen even if it's never happened before. And then there's the other side of it, where if you planned a time, you might be fucked off that you get the right time. I always have plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D. Plan D is just to finish it. So ultimately, as long as I finish it, I've hit one of those plans. So I have done what I set out to do. And if you don't do what you set out to do, then you've probably learned lessons from it, and you'll probably do better next time. This is all stuff that I'm telling you now. It's not necessarily stuff I take on board myself, because I'm my worst critic, and I hate myself most of the time. But for other people, and having gone through it myself, that would be my advice, is to do the plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and have a plan in for when you're done, and for what you're going to do and how you're going to cope with it.
How about how you felt when you won your first ultra? Because this is what I wanted to get your opinion on this, because for me, like, I've been running for like 20 odd years, off and on, and then worked my way. Unfortunately, went through the whole triathlon phase.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you recovered?
And did Ironman, and then I recovered from it, and chose ultra running. So for the past like 8 years now, I've been ultra running. And for me, it was always, as I got a bit quicker, there was always that thought that maybe one day I could win one of these. Do
you want to win one? Why do you want to win one?
Well, it's just that I have got a bit of a competitive nature in me. I claim to not be competitive because my wife is super competitive. So compared to her, I'm not competitive, but I still am competitive, more with myself. So for me, it was kind of like I built this thing up in my head that when I won my first ultra, my life would be complete. That any doubts about my running that I've ever had would be gone, and I would, be on I'd be on cloud nine, and I would be able to give all this advice to everybody, and people would come to me because I'd won a race and I knew how to do it.
Why do you want people to come to you for advice? It's the worst thing ever. They just annoy you and ask you for advice all the time.
And then I actually did win an ultra, and I realised that it's no different, is it, to wherever you came, you feel good for that amount of time, for a couple of days, and you talk about it, and then, as you say, no one really cares, so no one really talks about it, and the thing that you built it up in your head to be in this amazing thing, it actually is just, doesn't matter if you won it or if you came last.
Do you know what people really care about, Sam? People really care about if you are the sort of person that they can come and ask any question to, if you're approachable, you're kind, you're nice, you're not snobby, you're not a twat, that you will give them a cuddle and tell them it's all going to be okay. That's what people care about. And it's always nice to win a trophy. I love a trophy. And the stuff that I've won, most of the stuff I've won is because I've been the only woman to enter it. So I've won before I've even started. And I've also won and come last at the same time, which is a double bonus. And the first time I did win an ultra was a complete fluke. And the race director pulled me aside, and I thought I was going to be disqualified or I'd missed a lap, and I hadn't. And I'd done really well. Still my best 50-mile time. Don't know how I did it. Don't really care. But it put a seed into me that I did not like. And that seed was like, next year you're going to go back and win it again. Then you're going to go win it again. No, I'm not. I don't want to do that. If I win something or if I podium in something, great. But it's not going to ruin my race, because the minute I get into that competitive element, I lose the love for what I'm doing, and it just becomes another fucking stressor on my depressed brain. So I just don't do it. And it is lovely to win things. It really is. But it makes absolutely no difference to anybody apart from you, your wife, and your trophy cabinet for about 2 days. And then it's done. And
it's gone.
It's much more important to be a real solid member of the community, to be really consistent with your advice and your training, and to be open to people to say, yeah, if you want to ask me anything, then come and ask me anything. Or do you want to go for a run? If I'm around your area, of course I'll come for a run. I've been for runs with loads of strangers. That's better, because that inspires people. And I think inspiring people and getting people to attempt things that maybe they would never have even thought of attempting before is way, way more important to me than winning anything. Having said that, I would like to win a Centurion trophy because I like the trophy. But I'm never going to have the capability to be able to train to run a 60-an-hour 100. It's not going to happen.
Fair enough. It's great advice. Great advice. We've got a question. Someone sent one on the chat. So Phil said, "Oh, just while I'm at it, can everybody mute themselves who's not speaking? So everyone keeps randomly appearing. That's okay. I'm talking to you, Mark Whitmore." So Phil Scope says, "Has Allie ever needed Imodium? I struggle past 30 miles, tried all sorts. It helps me digest better. Now I feel. Any advice?"
I only ever used to take Imodium on London Marathon route, because basically there's nowhere to have to poo apart from the toilet. But I call it the brown caterpillar. So the brown caterpillar is always in your stomach, and he's like, "Hey guy, I'm going to come out for the party," and you're like, "You're not. Please don't come out." But the minute you acknowledge the brown caterpillar, he knows you've acknowledged him. It's like you got eye contact with him, and you're like, "Oh my god, he's going to come out." Basically, do what you need to do on a trail. If you have real bad problems with your stomach and you need to go to the toilet loads, go and see a doctor. I had a friend that thought that it was normal that she was having these stomach problems. It wasn't, and it ended up that she was actually quite ill. Not to scare you, but no, I don't. If I need to go to the toilet, I'll go to the toilet. I don't tend to get stomach problems because I don't put loads of refined sugar into my stomach. However, if it is a 50-mile ultra, there will definitely be an appearance of the brown caterpillar at least once, and if it's a 100-mile, at least twice. But just deal with it. You just got to deal with it. And I'd rather just deal with it than clog myself up with drugs, basically. Not too much information.
I had to pull out my first 100 at 85 because I basically had problems from 60, and I was losing more than I was putting in. And so ever since then, anything long that I do, anything more than a marathon, I need to use Imodium. So
have you actually spoken to a doctor about it? Because you really should. Yes, Phil, you need to go and talk to a doctor about it. Just because I don't. You should rule stuff out. Like it's a serious thing. Like something's going on there that should not be going on. If you're putting proper, as long as you're not running the whole thing on shot blocks, because if you are and gels, then you deserve the visits from the brown caterpillar. If you're eating proper food, it shouldn't be happening.
Probably should eat more proper food, I guess.
If you ate some fibre, like a cheese sandwich, and that's not offensive to anyone apart from a vegan, so like a peanut butter sandwich, the fibre will really help you to not need to go to the toilet all the time. But if you're just putting refined sugar into your stomach, it will make you want to go to the toilet all the time. And that's fact.
Yeah. It's an experiment I don't really want to carry out in case it doesn't work. But yeah, I take your advice.
What if it does work?
Consider it in training, yeah.
What if it does work? And you're like, oh my God, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, well, I'll do it in training. I'll do some big stuff in training. Yeah. Thank you.
With sandwiches, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, for ladies, ultra runners, did you have to kind of approach that? Are you naturally a wild pooer?
Me?
It's a bit of a weird question, isn't it? But is it something that comes naturally to you? Because I had a conversation with my wife last week. I don't know how the subject came up because she was talking about how pretty much every run I do, I have to go. It's just the way my system works, and I have become completely skilled at being very quick and very precise and getting the job done and moving on. But she actually said, we've been married for 15 years, and she actually said that she admitted that she'd only ever pooed in the toilet her whole life. And I thought, how has she got through life? And she runs, but how has she got through life without pooing, doing a wild poo?
She obviously got like way more control over herself. But the thing is, once you've been in a desert, a jungle, or anywhere where you're just like, well, this is where it is. There is no toilet in the Namib Nuclear Park. Well, there is. It's the Namib Nuclear Park. You just get to the point where you're just like, I don't care. Like, honestly, I have no shame. I always carry dog poo bags on me. So if it's somewhere where anybody could go anywhere near it, it'll be picked up and put to the nearest dog poo bin. I always have wet wipes on me. It's just like, you know, as long as no one can see you and you're not going to infect anybody, you can either bury it or you can pick it up, get on with it. I've had some hideous times. Like the Thames Pass 100 last year, I went out way too fast and I spent from 60 miles to 100 literally going to the toilet every 10 to 20 minutes, but nothing coming out. It was horrendous. And it was my own fault for going out too fast at the start. So I'll always kind of remember that. And I was eating properly, but I just went too quick. I don't have any problem with it. I think a lot of people probably do have a problem with it. But the more you do, the more places you go where you're like, well, this is where we have to go to the toilet, the more you just get over it. Just don't leave it anywhere. Just, you know, either bury it or pick it up and put it in.
Not an Aldi car park.
Don't do a Hellard. That's disgusting.
So, just speaking of the podcast, then, how did you get involved with the Bad Boy Running podcast? I know that some from the group, when we posted about interviewing you, a lot of people, said, yeah, I listened to the Bad Boy Running podcast, and I've been listening for years.
To be honest with you, I'm not on it a lot. Like I did a couple of episodes, did the Mongolia one, I did one about being depressed. And then I became friends with Hellard and Jodie generally, and we've done a lot. We just hung out a lot together when I lived in London. And then they were like, "Oh, you should do some presenting." And I do a bit, but I tend to just talk to the people that I bring in and that I like. And I will be doing some more because we're going to start putting some more little segments in. But it was more just a question. I don't think it was like, we need a girl. It was like, well, come on then, people like you, so just come and do it. So that's kind of what happened. We just became mates, and I really, really do like doing it. The problem I have is they go off on tangents so much when it's just those two talking that I try and keep it on running. Whereas actually I shouldn't. I should just tell stories about what my dog's done that week and just be funny. It'd be better. That's kind of what they do.
Netflix reviews and all of that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, as far as ultras, then, can you give us what has been favourite ultra. It doesn't have to be a race. Your favourite running experience, if it's one of your test pilot ones you've done, or
I don't actually know.
Hard to pick. Like children, who's your favourite child?
Like my proudest one is I did Devon coast to coast a couple of years ago. It took me 38 hours. It nearly killed me. I got trench foot halfway through. It was all my own mistakes, but it was really horrible and really hard. And I did everything right. I recce'd it. I just made a couple of mistakes and I didn't take an extra pair of shoes, and I forgot that at night time the grass gets wet. So I think I'm probably most proud of that. But like the Outer Hebrides, Scotland is my favourite place in the whole world. So the Outer Hebrides I absolutely loved. Namibia is my favourite place ex-UK to run, because the desert is the oldest desert on earth, and people don't get to run on it. Like they get to do races in Namibia, but they don't get to do Race to the Wreck, which is across a very special part of the desert that's closed off to people unless they do that event. So there's loads of them. Panama, I'm the only woman to have done the Panama Canal, so that's a big boy. But to be honest with you, it's all about like what I'm looking forward to. It's all about like what I could do. Like I tend to, and I think this is probably part of the depression, is I tend to shut off all the things I've done, and I tend to think I haven't actually done very much. But I'm writing my book. I'm trying to write my book at the moment, and so I've got all these post-it notes in my living room with all the things that I have done to try and put them into date order. And there's a fucking lot of stuff that I'm like, oh, I forgot I did that. I haven't forgotten. It's still there, but I just block it out because I don't think it's a big deal. But ultimately, it is. And my big thing is I just really, really want to be able to get back to getting on with this ridiculous timetable I've got for 2022 and 2023 and 2020, the rest of 2021, and just get on with it, because it's doing my head in that I can't.
What have you got coming up that you're really looking forward to then with Rat Race?
So next year in 2022, Run Britannia. So we came up with this idea in lockdown for Run Britannia, which is 1,000 miles, 35 days from Land's End to John O'Groats, but not on the shitty route that everyone does for the jog, on trails, on the
trails.
It's 50% trails, 50% quiet roads. So it's Southwest Coast Path up through, you just nip into Wales on Offers Dyke, and then up to Scotland, and then the Great Glen Way, the West Highland Way. Like, it's beautiful. And we're gonna it's 35 days, so it's about between 30 and 50 miles a day, with a day off each week. So we're doing that next year, which I cannot wait for, because that is like my pet project. I'm supposed to be going to Exuma in June again. We're supposed to be going to Dominica in June, and then we're going to Iceland. We've got races, well, not races, are events planned in the Galapagos, Madagascar, Kamchatka, back to Namibia, and then the year after that, Transandean, which is a cycle thing, which I'm not doing because it's a bike. There are loads of them, but I just want to get back out doing them. I just want to get back out with my map and my compass and my pals, just getting these routes sorted out, and then watching people go out and do the event, because that's the most important thing.
Yeah, it'd be nice when things return to some kind of normality, whatever normal
whatever
is.
That is. Yeah.
Hard to know what normal is. Yeah. So I don't want to keep you all night. I'm aware that you've had a busy, tiring week this week.
And I've got to get up at 6:30 tomorrow morning again, and I need to go and eat my dinner.
Oh no! Right. Okay. We'll leave it there then. We really appreciate you spending this time with us and sharing your thoughts and all of your amazing answers. Apologies if there was any weird questions in there.
Apologies if there was too much swearing in there, which there probably was, but I don't actually apologise. It's just what happens.
I knew it was coming. It's okay. It's expected. I'll try and bleep it out for the YouTube video, maybe. But thanks, Allie. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us, and we'll all take on a bit of advice you've taken. I'll try and be a better member of the running community and go and hug people.
I'm not saying you're a bad member of the running community. I'm just saying don't worry about all that competitive shit. Just be nice to people and have fun with people, and that's what the most important thing is.
Yeah, I do that as well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Allie. No problem. Thanks. See you. Bye. Bye.